Coach Saban, go ahead.
Well, first of all, wish everybody a very happy New Year. I know this is a time for resolutions, and what really are resolutions? It's things that we want to do in the future. So we're trying to be pretty obsessed with what we're trying to get done here in the next couple days. So, but I'd also like to make mention of the fact that this has been a very good experience for us. The Sugar Bowl folks have done a wonderful job, the city of New Orleans, and everything has gone extremely well from an organizational standpoint, from our standpoint, and we certainly appreciate that. But, you know, we're here to play a game, and our players have done a really good job of trying to prepare for this game, and we're going to continue to do that for the next 48 hours and hopefully be able to play very well in this game.
Rick Bonnell with the Charlotte Observer. This being the third straight year that you've played against Clemson, is there anything distinctive you notice about Dabo's teams?
Well, first of all, I think Dabo does a fantastic job with his team. He's got a really good coaching staff. I think they're very innovative in some of the things that they do offensively, which makes it very hard for them to defend. I think they do a very good job of utilizing the personnel that they have. You know, on offense, they're very talented. On defense, create a lot of problems for you, very aggressive in how they play. They've got some really good players, but those players play extremely well. And, you know, they're very solid on special teams and everything they do. So when you look at their team, it's hard to find a lot of weaknesses in terms of what they do and how they do it and the consistency that they do it with. So, you know, I just think this is a really good program, very well coached. I think Dabo has, you know, great leadership in terms of how people respond to him, and you can tell that by the way his team plays.
Hey, Nick, Barrett Sallee, CBS. When you see Clemson this year on tape, what stands out about their wide receiver, specifically Hunter Renfrow?
Well, Hunter Renfrow is, you know, a pain in the you-know-what in terms of nothing different from last year to this year. You know, the guy's very quick, very instinctive as a player, knows how to get open, makes the right decisions, really kind of a go-to guy for them on third down, especially in the third and, you know, 4 to 6, 7 range. So very, very crafty, very quick, but very smart in terms of how he plays. And he's been really a consistent, effective player for them. And I think, you know, when I made the statement earlier about how they utilize their personnel, they take, to me, receiver corps is a little bit like a basketball team. You know, you got to have a point guard, you got to have a shooting guard, you got to have a power forward, and I think that's one of the things that they do really well with their wide receiver corps in terms of how they utilize their guys, and they utilize him extremely well, and he's very effective in how he does what they ask him to do.
Chris Lowe, ESPN. Nick, where has Jalen grown the most as a quarterback and a leader?
I think Jalen has improved dramatically from last year to this year, and I think his consistency and performance throughout this past season was a lot better, especially in the passing game. Jalen has always been a guy that, because of his athleticism and his ability to run the ball, has made a lot of plays with his feet. But I also think that we've been able to help him develop as a quarterback in terms of his decision-making in the pocket. And when he has done that well, he's been extremely effective, and he's been a little more consistent at doing that well this year. And we hope that, you know, that we'll be able to continue to build on that, you know, for him in this game.
Coach Saban back here.
Aslan Hodges, CBS in Dothan, Alabama. Coach, the last month, obviously very valuable to get these guys on defense healthy, but on the offensive side, have you seen the development you'd want out of your wide receivers in the last month to give somebody to complement Calvin on the outside?
Well, first of all, we have gotten a few players back on defense, but we also lost Hootie Jones in the Auburn game, Sean Dion Hamilton, who was a signal caller on defense. So lost Dylan Moses, who really kind of took his place. So we've kind of gained a few and lost a few. But it's a new mix of people and a new chemistry of how those guys are going to work together in this game. And I think that's extremely important in terms of communication when you play against no-huddle type teams. Offensively, I think we have other weapons on offense that have made plays, whether it's Jerry Jeudy, Smitty, Ruggs, Robert Foster, Cam Sims. I just think we have to utilize those guys, and I think they're all very capable, and we have a lot of confidence in them. So it's a matter of the quarterback developing confidence, making the right decisions, getting the ball to the right guys, and that's something that we worked on very, very hard all year long, and hopefully over this time it's going to show that we have made improvement.
Nicole Auerbach, The Athletic. How, after a game like last year's against Clemson, how many times do you watch the game, the film of it?
Well, I don't know that how many times. I can't answer that. More than I'd like, but and I think maybe to understand when you prepare for a game, it's not just about the game. It's the situations. You prepare for a game more like formation breakdowns. What do they do in these formations, these personnel groups, these motions? How are they different this year than what they've been in the past? And you take some of the things that happened in the game last year and some of the things that you got hurt with in the game last year, and you kind of throw that in the mix and make sure that you're helping your players be able to play those plays effectively in the game. So anytime we play a game, right after the game, we always sort of do here's the things that we did well, here's the things we could have improved on, here's some game plan sort of adjustments that we could have made or preparation errors that would help us play better. So it starts with that self-analysis a whole year ago. And then how do you answer those questions moving forward? And we obviously watch that game again, but some of those assessments continue to be the same. So it's a matter of trying to fix those things and get the players to understand the issues and the problems and get tied together in terms of how you play the plays. To me, there's a lot of quarterback runs. So you're basically playing a wildcat type of offense all the time with a quarterback who is able to throw the ball down the field. So that's a very challenging in and of itself circumstance to have to deal with.
Nick, on your right, Kevin Skarbinski, AL.com. When you look at the players that you lost to the NFL from last year and the injuries you've suffered this year, is it fair to say that this defense may have overachieved so far this season?
Well, maybe to say it a little differently, I would say we've certainly had our share of challenges. First of all, starting with the fact that we lost a lot of good players on defense, had a lot of new players playing. Those players developed, I think, very well. And then we had a lot of adversity to overcome in terms of some of the personnel, especially at one particular position, which would be linebacker. And sometimes you can overcome injuries when you have one here, one there at different positions because you have enough depth. But it's created some issues for this group this year, and I think that they've handled it. I think our coaches, I think Jeremy and our defensive coaches have handled it really well in terms of providing the leadership to help those guys be able to go in and be effective in the roles that they played. So and it continues to be a challenge for us.
Coach Aslan Hodge again, WTVY in Dothan. Does it matter how this team arrived at this destination and got here? And historically, you guys won the Iron Bowl, and most times the SEC championship game when you've played in a game of this magnitude. Has that affected the dynamic of practice and in preparation for the game?
Well, I think that if you go back to when we lost last year in the playoff, we made the statement that to the players that you don't want to waste a failing, that you want to learn from the mistakes that you made and grow from those things. And I think our players did that throughout the course of the season. We didn't finish the season like we wanted to, which sort of put our fate in someone else's hands. We didn't control our own destiny to some degree. But I think it's human nature that when you don't have success, people respond in a positive way to do the things that you want them to do. I think there's some things that are really important when you get to this point in the season, which includes our last game that we played, is, you know, what do you want to accomplish and what are you willing to do it? And there's probably 3 critical factors in all that. You got to be able to finish. I mean, you got to be able to finish plays, finish quarters, finish games. You got to be able to overcome hard, because every game that you play in situations like this are going to be a real dogfight. So if you don't have the mindset to be able to overcome adversity and get frustrated when things don't go well, then you're going to have a tough time in games like this, because you're playing against good teams and they're going to make plays and you have to respond, you know, on the next play. And everybody's got to take ownership for what their role is. What do they need to do to make an effective contribution to the team? And sometimes you have guys that take ownership and just change the whole dynamic of the whole team because of the way they play, the way they compete. I think the 49ers quarterback is probably the most recent example of that. I mean, the guy goes and wins 4 or 5 games in a row, but not only is he a better quarterback, they're playing better defense, they're playing better on special teams because of what he's done to sort of impact everyone else to play at a little different level and a little different standard. I think it affects confidence and all those things. So, and it's not about what you feel like, it's what you choose to do relative to what you want to do. And I think that's something that we'll see when we go out there and play, you know, how our players really respond. And they've been good in practice. This group has been really good in terms of the preparation for this game, but we also have a lot of respect for the other team that we're playing. And we also know how we need to finish, how we need to overcome hard, how we need to take ownership if we're going to create the identity that we want to create in terms of this team, our team.